The city lights blurred into a monotonous stream as I drove home, the rhythm of my well-maintained sedan a familiar comfort after a long day at the office. At 24, my life felt neatly organized, a series of predictable days and carefully planned weekends. There was a quiet satisfaction in that, a sense of control. I was Georgia, a young professional who valued efficiency and calm. Then, the red glow ahead. Not just taillights, but a chaotic, flickering pulse of emergency vehicles. A traffic jam, sudden and jarring, broke the evening's serene flow. My grip tightened on the steering wheel, a ripple of annoyance passing through me. This was certainly not part of the plan. As I crept closer, the scene unfolded. Two cars, mangled and askew, blocking the intersection. My training, dormant yet ingrained from a long-past first-aid course, immediately kicked in. I parked my car, flicked on my hazards, and without a second thought, grabbed the small emergency kit I always kept in the trunk. Stepping out, the air was thick with the scent of burning rubber and gasoline, an acrid punch to the senses. People milled about, some on phones, others just staring. My focus narrowed. One car, a small compact, had taken the brunt of the impact. The driver's side door was crumpled inwards. I peered inside, my heart thudding a little faster. A young woman was slumped against the passenger seat, a thin trickle of blood tracing a path from her temple. Her eyes were open, wide with stunned disbelief. "Are you okay?" My voice was calm, steady, despite the rising adrenaline. "Can you move?" She looked at me, a flash of defiance in her gaze, even as she winced. I think so. My arm, though." Her voice was surprisingly clear. I carefully helped her unbuckle, guiding her out of the wrecked vehicle, mindful of her reported injury. Once she was safely seated on the curb, away from immediate danger, I knelt. The streetlights cast a harsh glow, illuminating a nasty scrape on her forearm, already swelling and darkening. "I have a first aid kit," I said, my hands moving with practiced efficiency. "Let's clean this up." She watched me as I worked, her breath steady but shallow. Her dark, slightly disheveled hair framed a face that was strikingly beautiful, even smudged with dust and a touch of blood. She was around my age, maybe a little older, but with an intensity in her eyes that clashed sharply with my own quiet composure. "Thank you," she said, her voice softer this time, a faint waver beneath the words. "You didn't have to stop." I met her gaze briefly. "Anyone would," I replied, perhaps too quickly, unwilling to dwell on the impulse that had propelled me from my car. The moment hung between us, a strange connection forged in chaos. I felt a subtle shift, a barely perceptible ripple in the smooth surface of my life. The weeks that followed were a peculiar blend of routine and an unsettling undercurrent. The memory of the accident, and more specifically, of her, refused to fully recede. The faint scent of antiseptic from my emergency kit, the image of her wide, dark eyes, the defiant set of her jaw even in pain, they resurfaced in quiet moments during my morning coffee, or as I stared out my office window. I found myself wondering if she was truly all right, a concern that felt strangely persistent for a stranger I'd encountered for mere minutes. My pragmatic side dismissed it as simple human empathy, yet a small, insistent voice whispered something more. I felt an uncharacteristic urge to know, to connect, but my nature, so accustomed to boundaries and measured interactions, held me back. I was Georgia, after all, not one to chase after fleeting encounters. One Tuesday, just as the afternoon light began to mellow and I was immersed in a complex report, my office door swung open. My assistant's flustered voice preceded a figure that stopped me mid-sentence. "Miss Georgia," my assistant began, "this is Elena. She insisted on seeing you." And there she was. Elena, fully recovered, standing tall, radiating an energy that electrified the usually sedate atmosphere of my office. Her dark hair was neatly styled, and she wore a tailored jacket that spoke of quiet elegance. Only a faint, almost invisible scar near her temple hinted at recent trauma. She smiled, a direct, unwavering gaze that held the depth I remembered. Georgia, I hope you don't mind me showing up unannounced. I wanted to thank you properly. My heart gave a surprising little lurch. Elena, I managed my voice even, though I felt warmth creep up my neck. You're well. Thanks to you, she said, her voice rich and resonant. She stepped further into the room, gesturing lightly as she spoke, her tone carrying a sincerity that felt hard to ignore. I've been meaning to track you down. You were quite the Samaritan. Just doing what anyone would, I repeated, the familiar line feeling hollow even to my own ears. Not everyone, she countered gently, her eyes sparkling. Most people would have kept driving. You stayed. You helped. And for that, I'm truly grateful. She paused, her gaze holding mine. I was hoping I could take you out for coffee. My treat, of course. A proper thank you, and a chance to apologize for disrupting your evening a few weeks ago. The offer hung in the air, a simple request that felt anything but. My mind raced, searching for a polite excuse to maintain my carefully constructed distance. Yet, looking at her, at the genuine warmth in her eyes, the sheer audacity of her appearance, I hesitated. It was an unexpected disruption to my predictable rhythm, and a part of me, one I hadn't known existed, was intrigued. I found myself agreeing to coffee. It felt less like a date and more like a necessary courtesy, a formality to close the chapter on our accidental meeting. Yet, as I sat across from Elena in a bustling downtown cafe a few days later, the air hummed with unfamiliar energy. The clatter of cups and murmur of conversations faded into a pleasant background as she spoke. Elena was a storyteller. She recounted her recovery with self-deprecating humor and fierce optimism, her hands moving expressively as she painted vivid pictures. She spoke of her work. She was a freelance graphic designer, it turned out, and her project sounded vibrant and imaginative, a stark contrast to my methodical world of corporate finance. I listened, captivated, my usual analytical mind momentarily suspended, simply absorbing her vivacity. As she leaned forward to emphasize a point, our shoulders nearly touched. It was a fleeting proximity, barely noticeable, yet I felt a strange awareness of her presence, a sharp contrast to my usual detachment. I subtly shifted, creating a small gap, a silent attempt to re-establish my usual boundaries. She didn't seem to notice, or perhaps chose not to. A few minutes later, she passed me the sugar bowl, our hands meeting briefly in a polite exchange. Another quick, wordless connection. I found myself acutely aware of her subtle perfume, something light and floral, and my heart, usually a steady drum, began to beat a little faster. I took a slow sip of coffee, willing myself to appear composed, yet inside, unfamiliar sensations stirred. She was utterly unreserved, her laughter bubbling up effortlessly, her gaze direct and attentive. She asked about my work and interests, listening with an intensity that made me feel truly seen, in a way I rarely experienced. It was disarming. I found myself revealing more than I typically would to a near stranger, my usual guard slipping without conscious permission. "You have a lovely laugh, Georgia," she said, her voice soft, and for a moment, the cafe's noise faded completely. Her eyes held mine, and in that gaze, I detected warmth that went beyond casual friendliness. I felt my cheeks flush, a sensation I hadn't experienced since my teenage years. I quickly looked away, picking at a stray crumb on the table. This wasn't a formal thank you. This was something else entirely, something that sparked a quiet alarm. Her attentiveness, her compliments, the way she effortlessly bridged the unspoken space between us, it was all building into a feeling I couldn't name, a thrilling yet terrifying sense of being drawn toward the unknown. My predictable, orderly world was beginning to feel distinctly unsettled. In the days and weeks that followed, Elena proved persistent and remarkably clever. She didn't overtly chase me, not in a way that allowed easy dismissal. Instead, she wove herself into my routine with artistic subtlety. A small bouquet of my favorite white lilies would appear on my desk, always with a simple and signed card. A barista at my usual coffee shop would hand me a prepaid latte from your friend, they'd say, and I knew exactly who. There were invitations, always phrased casually, almost as an afterthought. My gallery opening is next Friday if you're free, or I'm checking out this new jazz club, thought you might enjoy it. Each time, refusing felt rude, especially after she'd bailed me out of a professional crisis. I'd been struggling with a high-stakes presentation, stuck on lackluster visuals, when Elena offered a brilliant design concept that transformed the entire project. Her help was generous and effortless, leaving me indebted in a way that went beyond courtesy. Every interaction, no matter how brief, felt meaningful. We'd run into each other at my favorite bookstore on Saturdays, or bump into one another at my go-to-lunch spot. There were no grand gestures, just consistent, undeniable presence. Each encounter left me thinking about her long after, analyzing her smile, the tone of her voice, the way she seemed to understand parts of me I barely acknowledged myself. A part of me, the rational side, wanted to put an end to it, politely but firmly tell her this wasn't what I wanted, that my life was perfect as is. Yet another part, smaller but louder, was undeniably intrigued. I was thinking about her far more than I cared to admit. My annoyance was tinged with anticipation. I'd try to find fault in her persistence, label it brazen, but her sincerity always shone through. She wasn't aggressive, she was simply present. And in her presence, my neatly defined world began to blur at the edges. The carefully balanced tension finally broke during a lunch I'd agreed to against my better judgment. We were at a quiet bistro, and I'd been steering the conversation towards safe topics, professional goals, city news, anything to keep unspoken emotions at bay. Elena, however, had other plans. She'd been unusually quiet for minutes, her gaze fixed on me with an intensity that made my skin prickle. Then she set down her fork, a soft clink that echoed in the sudden stillness. "Georgia," she began, her voice low and unwavering. "I need to be honest with you." My heart lurched. I knew instantly what was coming. A knot tightened in my stomach as I braced myself, my posture stiffening. From the moment I saw you there, on the road, calm and capable amidst chaos, I felt something. Something I've never felt before. She took a breath, her gaze unshakable. "I'm drawn to you, Georgia. More than I can explain. I'm falling for you." The words hung in the air, direct and undeniable. My mind, usually quick to respond, went blank. My carefully constructed composure threatened to crumble. This was the moment I dreaded, and perhaps, secretly, anticipated. "Elena," I said, my voice carefully modulated, though I felt a faint waver. I gripped the table's edge beneath the linen cloth, grounding myself. "I appreciate your honesty. Truly." I took a steadying breath. "But I think you've misunderstood. That night was an act of kindness, nothing more. Our interactions these weeks have been friendly. I value you as a friend." The word felt like a brittle shield. "But I'm not looking for anything more. I'm sorry." I tried to infuse my refusal with gentle finality, conveying empathy and firm boundaries. Her expression flickered, a momentary shadow of vulnerability that tugged at me. For a split second, I saw raw hurt. But just as quickly, it was gone, replaced by stubborn determination. A look that promised she wouldn't give up easily. The rest of lunch passed in a haze, conversation stilted, air thick with unspoken feelings. I left feeling a strange mix of relief and unsettling loss. I'd done the right thing, I told myself, maintained my boundaries, protected my peaceful life. Yet a nagging emptiness lingered, a dissonance in the harmony I usually cherished. And deep down, I knew with certainty, Elena's pursuit was far from over. Elena, true to the determination I'd glimpsed, did not disappear. Instead, her presence became a constant, gentle hum beneath my daily life. It wasn't bothersome, it was insidious, effective. Her unapologetic persistence manifested in subtle, thoughtful ways that chipped at my resolve. One morning, I found a small, intricately folded paper crane tucked beneath my keyboard, vibrant and delicate against my orderly workspace. Another week, a renowned art magazine arrived at my apartment, addressed to me, open to a feature on abstract expressionism, a topic I'd idly mentioned weeks earlier. Each gesture was personal and disarming, less a conquest than a quiet offering. She'd appear at my bookstore or lunch spot, not pushy, just present. Our conversations lasted longer than I intended, her questions probing but kind, her observations about me startlingly accurate. There were no grand declarations, just consistent, genuine interest. Each encounter left a trace of warmth, a reminder that someone saw me, truly saw me, in a way no one else ever had. My frustration mounted, a slow burn. It felt almost overwhelming, yet her actions lacked malice. It was pure, sincere persistence. I'd try to rationalize it, dismiss her as audacious, but a deeper part of me was captivated. I found myself looking for her in familiar places, my internal monologues devolving into debates. Should I confront her again? Would it matter? Her spirit seemed unyielding. This quiet siege on my composure was both infuriating and, to my bewilderment, exhilarating. My orderly life was no longer just unsettled. It was being rearranged, piece by piece, by the force of Elena's affection. The tension, stretched thin over weeks of Elena's relentless yet gentle pursuit, finally snapped one rainy Tuesday afternoon. I'd just left my office, the autumn chill biting at my skin, when I saw her. Elena stood beneath the cafe awning across the street, a coffee cup in hand, her gaze fixed on me. No pretense, she was waiting. A wave of frustration washed over me, mixed with an unsettling thrill. I marched across the street, my usual measured steps replaced by urgency. "Elena," I said, my voice sharper than intended, my composure fraying. "We need to talk. This has to stop." She lowered her coffee cup, her expression unreadable, her dark eyes holding quiet intensity. "Georgia," she responded, her voice soft yet unwavering, "I don't think I can." "You have to," I insisted, my voice rising slightly. The words tumbled out, a release of weeks of suppressed irritation and internal conflict. "You're disrupting my life. I've told you how I feel. I've asked you to respect my decision. This constant presence, it's not fair." Silence stretched between us, punctuated only by rain drumming on the awning. Her gaze never left mine, a silent, unwavering force. No anger, just profound sadness, yet beneath it, stubborn determination. "I know what you said," she finally replied, barely a whisper. "And I heard you, but my feelings, they haven't changed. And I can't pretend they don't exist." Then she took a step forward, closing the distance. My breath hitched. The air thickened, charged with unspoken emotion. The scent of rain and her perfume mingled, intoxicating. My rational mind screamed to retreat, but my feet felt rooted. She reached out slowly, her hand rising to gently cup my face. Her thumb brushed my cheekbone, a soft, deliberate touch. Her eyes searched mine, raw, vulnerable, resolute. My heart hammered against my ribs. Then, with a faint lean, she closed the gap. Her lips, soft and tentative at first, met mine. It wasn't forceful, just a quiet reckoning of unspoken feelings, of walls crumbling, of two worlds colliding. My initial instinct was to pull away, but the honesty in her touch, the weight of her longing, held me fast. My hands, once clenched at my sides, rose to rest lightly on her shoulders, a silent acknowledgement of the shift between us. It was clumsy, imperfect, yet undeniably a beginning. The aftermath of that rain-soaked moment was a blur of awkward silences and hesitant glances. My analytical mind felt scrambled, unable to process the seismic shift. One moment I was Georgia, composed, controlled. The next, I was reeling from Elena's kiss, from the warmth that had bloomed within me. Her audacity, paired with my own surrender, left me disoriented. Elena, sensing my confusion, pulled back slightly, her hands remaining on my face, thumbs brushing my cheeks gently. Her eyes held uncertainty, a vulnerability I hadn't seen before. "Georgia," she whispered, her voice husky, I just..." I could not. Her simple words resonated with raw honesty, cutting through my confusion. No calculation, no manipulation, just unfiltered emotion that had broken through my defenses. I could only nod, unable to form words. My mind whirled with conflicting feelings, shock, lingering resistance, and a confusing, undeniable pull toward her. My predictable world had been irrevocably altered. The certainty I'd always relied on was gone, replaced by a tumultuous, exhilarating unknown. We parted that evening with a silent understanding, a fragile bridge between us. In the days that followed, our interactions shifted. We spent more time together, not in bustling cafes, but in quiet settings, walks in the park, evenings on her couch listening to music. Conversations deepened, moving beyond pleasantries to profound revelations. Elena shared fragments of a difficult childhood, growing up in a town that stifled her creativity, a past heartbreak that left her wary of commitment yet craving connection. Her bold pursuit of me, I realized, was her way of fighting for something she believed in, a testament to her resilience. I listened, truly listened, my reserve melting in the warmth of her trust. In return, I revealed parts of myself I rarely shared, the quiet anxieties beneath my composure, the fear of vulnerability that had kept me emotionally guarded. It was an unfamiliar intimacy, yet with Elena, it felt safe. Her affection wasn't demanding, it was a steady presence that enveloped me. Slowly, tentatively, I began to lower my guard, finding strength in her openness, in the uncharted territory of my heart. As our connection deepened, the layers of Elena's vibrant exterior peeled away, revealing tenderness beneath. One evening, curled on her sofa with city lights glittering outside, she spoke of her past with raw vulnerability. She'd grown up in a small town that valued conformity over creativity, her artistic spirit misunderstood and stifled. A past relationship had ended abruptly, leaving her with abandonment fears and a deep-seated worry of never being truly loved. "It's like, I had to fight for everything good in my life," she confessed, her voice a low murmur. "So when I saw you, Georgia, I couldn't let you go." Her words resonated deeply. My own past, while less dramatic, had its shadows, a meticulously ordered home life with little room for emotion, an ambition that had overshadowed the need for connection. Elena's openness prompted me to look inward, to acknowledge how my experiences had shaped my guarded nature. I reached for her hand, a comforting weight in mine. The strength I'd always projected suddenly felt like a wall, not a shield. With Elena, I desired to dismantle it, brick by brick. I'd always believed in self-reliance, but now, in her presence, I began to understand the power of shared burdens, the healing in vulnerability. Elena wasn't just someone I was falling for. She was a mirror, reflecting parts of myself I'd long hidden, inviting me to embrace authenticity. Our personalities, once contrasting, began to weave together into something richer than either of us imagined. Elena's vivacity, once unsettling to my structured world, became a gentle pull, coaxing me into impromptu weekend trips to coastal towns, hidden art installations, moments of spontaneity I'd never allowed myself. I found myself laughing more, a carefree sound that felt foreign yet exhilarating. In turn, my calm presence anchored Elena. Her impulsivity found balance in my methodical approach. When she got swept up in creative projects, losing track of time, I'd gently remind her of deadlines, help organize her workspace, or sit with her, a steady presence that grounded her. Trust was a slow journey for me, like tracing a delicate pattern on canvas. My reserve didn't vanish overnight, but Elena's patience was boundless. Her affection was a consistent warmth, never demanding, always understanding. She didn't push, she waited, offering a safe space for me to unfurl at my own pace. We discussed fears and hopes, I articulating anxieties I'd never named, Elena sharing lingering echoes of past hurts. I always thought showing weakness meant losing, she confessed one evening, her hand resting lightly on my arm. But with you, Georgia, it feels like strength. For me, Trusting Elena meant believing in her actions as much as her words. The way she'd find my hand in crowded rooms, the way she'd convey understanding with a single look, the certainty that she saw me, all of me, and accepted me. Through her, I learned love wasn't about erasing differences, but celebrating them, building a bridge of understanding where there had once been separate shores. Our disparate worlds were slowly, beautifully, intertwining. As our bond became more visible, the world around us shifted. Friends, colleagues, acquaintances noticed the change. Curious glances, lingering looks, hushed whispers that dissipated as we approached. At a work function, a colleague made a thinly veiled comment about new priorities, edge in her tone. At a family gathering, an aunt grew reserved when Elena was introduced, her smile tight, eyes darting between us. It wasn't hostility, but subtle judgment, a pressure to conform to unspoken rules. These external pressures, instead of driving us apart, solidified our connection. Each hesitant glance, each whispered comment, reminded us our bond wasn't universally understood. But instead of retreating, we leaned into each other, finding solace in shared experience. One evening, after an awkward run-in with a gossipy acquaintance, frustration bubbled within me. "It's ridiculous," I murmured. "Why do people care so much?" Elena reached for my hand, her touch firm and reassuring. "Because they don't understand," she said simply. "What people don't understand, they label or dismiss. But their opinions, Georgia, don't define us. What defines us is right here." She squeezed my hand, her gaze steady. In that moment, her quiet strength was a beacon. We learned to prioritize our happiness over others' judgments, curating lives with supportive company and environments. Our relationship, once a delicate bud, hardened into something resilient, capable of withstanding societal expectations. We were two individuals from different worlds, united by a love that taught us the beauty of standing together, unapologetically ourselves. Just as we settled into a comfortable rhythm, a new challenge emerged, one that tested our future's practicality. Late one Tuesday evening, Elena received an email, a dream offer from a prestigious design firm on the opposite coast. It was a career-defining opportunity, but it meant relocation. I read the email over her shoulder, a knot tightening in my stomach. I could see the excitement in her eyes, yet cold dread seeped into my heart. Distance, a threat to my carefully ordered life, my entrenched career, our fragile bond. "This is incredible, Elena," I said, my voice forced, trying to match her enthusiasm. She turned to me, her excitement fading as she read my apprehension. Her smile faltered. "It is," she agreed, squeezing my hand, "but it's also a big move." This wasn't just a job offer. It was a test of our commitment. Could our relationship survive geographical divide? Was I willing to uproot my life, or she to let her dream pass? We spent days in deep discussion, blending my methodical planning with her intuitive passion. I laid out pros and cons, researched job markets on the coast, analyzed finances. Elena spoke of her artistic vision, the once-in-a-lifetime mentorship, and her profound desire to build a life with me. "I can't imagine this without you," she confessed one night, her head on my shoulder. "But it's something I've worked for my entire life." Her words pulled me between comfort and love. This wasn't a problem to solve with logic alone. It demanded faith, a reevaluation of what mattered. Our approaches balanced each other. My strategic mind mapped possibilities. Her passion reminded us of our emotional core. The crossroads was daunting, but in our shared deliberations, an uncertain yet hopeful path emerged. The journey with Elena, from chaotic car crash to unexpected crossroads, had been transformative. Georgia, who once found comfort in predictability, now saw life through a new lens. Fear of the unknown had softened into acceptance. I was more open, more engaged, less afraid of connection. Elena's pursuit hadn't just breached my walls. It had shown me those walls were stifling, not protective. Elena, too, had changed. Her fierce independence, born from hurt, had found safety. She retained her vibrant spirit, her artistic fire, but now it was tempered with calm, a sense of belonging. The sharp edges of her past had softened, allowing vulnerability that was both beautiful and powerful. She'd found a partner who saw her, understood her, and met her passion with steady love. We decided to embark on a new chapter together. It wasn't easy, requiring compromise from both. My career would take a temporary backseat as I explored new avenues in a new city. Her dream job would be balanced with building a shared home, a shared future. Our relationship, like Elena's art, was an ever-evolving canvas. No neat conclusions, no traditional happily ever after. It was a continuous journey of discovery, growth, and acceptance of each other's complexities. We learned love wasn't a destination, but a path taken hand in hand through familiar and uncharted landscapes. As we packed boxes, merging the artifacts of our separate lives into one, I smiled. The scent of cardboard, the rustle of packing paper, the occasional brush of Elena's hand against mine, all felt like the prelude to an adventure. My once guarded heart now beat with quiet confidence, filled not with certainty, but with boundless possibility. We were Georgia and Elena, two women who'd found each other in chaos, healed each other with love, and were now ready to face whatever lay ahead, together, an open horizon stretching endlessly before us.